Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Really special guest, one of my all-time favorite guitar players here with Scotti Hill from Skid Row. This guy's awesome. I want a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank our mutual friend, Keith Nelson, for hooking us up. Keith, thanks a lot. You're the man. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show. If you're already checking us out on YouTube, hit the subscribe button down there and the little emoji that looks like a bell. That helps us get recommended more by YouTube, and I appreciate your support on that. Hey, let me give you, I'm going to ask most of Scotty's background's going to come out in our questions, but just to give you a brief some thumbnail sketch. You grew up on Long Island, started playing guitar at age 13 at his sister's encouragement. This is a very good story that we'll talk about. The guitar quickly became an obsession for him. And when he was 14, his parents took him down to Manny's music store on 48th Street in New York City and got him a 78 Telecaster. I have a hard time imagining you playing a Telecaster. At 16, he began hanging out in the local clubs and playing in cover bands. He joined what would evolve into Skid Row at age 20. And since then, he's toured the world multiple times, starting off playing in corner stages and tiny roadhouses and growing to playing the biggest stadiums all around the world. Skid Row's debut album sold over 5 million copies. The second album, Slave to the Grind, debuted at #1 on Billboard. Scotty's performed on SNL, Moscow Music Peace Festival, and American Music Awards, and he's a very lovely guy. Man, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
You're welcome. You make me sound impressive.
This is impressive, man. It's like, yeah, it's awesome. How many people have played around the world in Moscow Music Peace Fest, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on. This is, I was telling Scotty, whenever I have like a musical hero of mine, it's a really special thing for me because he's moved me already emotionally. So there's that, like that aura of like, wow. And so you're wow, Scotty. There you go. So you grew up.
I mean, that's always, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, just as long as you want to sit here and say nice things about me, I'll just sit and listen.
Yeah, right on, man. That's good. It's good that you could do that. I struggle with that, man. I'm always like, someone said to me one time, Craig, just say thank you. I'm like, okay. All right. You grew up in Manhasset, which is in Nassau County. And you had a difficult childhood that took a random turn for the better once your parents were able to get you a proper diagnosis for a condition you had. I'd love you to talk about that. It's a really compelling story.
Well, I worked my way to that. I was in 1969. We moved upstate New York, so I only lived on Long Island for 4 or 5 years. Excuse me. And so we moved up to from Long Island, which is really dense and populated, up to a small town called Cold Spring, New York, which is about 50 miles up the Hudson from Manhattan. And it's like a one traffic light town, very small. So I was living there. That's where I was at. So there was not a lot happening. It's probably about 6,000 people in Cold Spring, 6,000. The school, you walk into school in one door and as a kindergartner, and you walk out the other door at the other end of the school as a senior. So it's that type.
Wow.
Of Mayberry. But it's really beautiful. It's right on the Hudson River. It's across from West Point. So it's just a beautiful place, and I like to go back there. And there was a bench I used to sit on and play guitar when I was first learning. I would practice down by the river, sit on the riverbank on this bench, and I like to go back and just chill on that bench. And
that's cool.
Reminisce. No, yeah.
Have you taken your kids to that bench?
No, not yet.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We have a son, Marshall. I've taken my wife there, and actually, the last time I was there, I took a nap on that bench.
Right on.
It was a long drive. I had a show in Connecticut the night before, and I drove down to Cold Spring and sat on the bench for a while, and I was like, this is really nice, kind of relaxing, tranquil. I'm going to rest my eyes for a bit.
Good for you, man. Right
that's
on.
That's what we call a nap around here. So if I say I'm going to rest my eyes, that means bugger off.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you moved up there.
Yeah. So you were getting to my diagnosis of dyslexia.
Yeah.
So dyslexia is a common thing, man.
Yes.
But in the early 70s, in a small town, upstate. They didn't know what was going on. So, my parents took me to the city, New York, and they diagnosed me with dyslexia, which turns out my dad has also.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my son doesn't appear to have the dyslexia, but it's no big deal. I mean, lots of people have it.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where they don't understand it and you don't get the attention that needs, you tend to fall behind, which is what happened to me. So, they say, hey, yeah, he's a bright kid. How come he's not learning? Maybe he's lazy. And, so it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard, frustrating. And so by the time I got to high school, I was pissed. I was just an angry, pissed off kid. So that probably led me to, interest in music and all that, because it wouldn't have gone well had I not gone into music, I think. Yeah.
Talk about how your sister got you into music, because it's a really nice story.
My sister Tina, her boyfriend had a guitar and a banjo and all this stuff, and he used to play music, and he'd come over and he'd play, and it was really cool, man. To see somebody play guitar right in front of you, and it was always fun when he brought his instruments over. But I never really thought of it like something I'd like to do. And then one day, he lived about a mile from us, and one day, I remember it very well. It was like a spring day. It was really nice. I got on my bicycle and I rode over to his house. When I got there, he was sitting in the grass under a tree with his guitar and just strumming away. It was like this spring day, and it was like, wow, you can do that. People can do that. You can sit outside. You could just sit outside and make music, and it was just really something that profound moment for me. And I hung around and watched for a little while, and then I remember riding home and just thinking about it. And it's a very vivid memory for me. And I guess I was talking about it quite a bit to my sister, and for my birthday, which was a few weeks later, her and she got me a month's worth of guitar lessons for the birthday. And I borrowed a guitar from her boyfriend, Rick Carano, who lives up in, I think he's up in New York State still. And I borrowed a nylon string from him. And it was like an area nylon string. And I took the month's worth of lessons, and then my parents saw my interest and kind of just threw gasoline on that fire. So if you see your kid interested in something, you want to just really push towards it.
Totally.
Especially a kid that's lost. So I knew from the beginning that I was obsessed with the guitar. I mean, probably first or second week, I was all in, and I still have the chord diagram that my teacher Ken, I think his name was Ken Tompkins. He drew some chord diagrams on a notepad, and I still have that page. And it was really special. It was really cool. Super, super exciting time for me. Yeah. And eventually, I got my own guitar, and the first one was a Yamaha acoustic. It was a Yamaha FG 180, which is what so many people have started playing guitar on. I think Yamaha acoustics are responsible for, 90% of the guitar player out there have started on those. So
do you still have it?
No, I don't. But a couple of years ago, I went on eBay and I bought one similar to it. Just I was having this nostalgia correction, so I got the Yamaha FG 180, which is
cool.
The one with the red label is kind of collectible these days, so they're getting pricey. But when I say pricey, it's nothing compared to the real vintage Strats or Martins or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. And but so your parents are supportive of you, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You know, they I think it was frustrating for them, uh, you know, with my problems in school. And we all had problems in school. We all just had, you know, mine was different than maybe somebody else's, but
Sure.
They were supportive. They were really supportive of the music, which I'm so fortunate, because I know people that, you know, have really good friends whose parents were not supportive of it. And I was like, I don't know, you know, what that would have been like.
Sure.
To have the support of the parental units was a big deal.
Yeah.
So they took me, like you mentioned in the intro, they took me down to 48th Street in Manhattan. You will remember it,
Yeah.
being from New York.
So
And
cool.
yeah, so if for those of you that don't know what that is, if you went there today, you still wouldn't know what it is, because it's all gone now. But it was a block between, what, 6th and 7th Avenue, I think.
Yeah.
48th Street, and it was all music stores, both sides of the street. First floor, second floor, even the third floor in some cases. Little tiny boutique shops up there and stuff. This is before Guitar Center or any of that. I think Sam Ash might have been around.
They were,
but
Sam Ash was around.
Oh, yeah, that, because they're right next to Manny's.
Yeah, the big store there.
Manny's was like the pinnacle of 48th Street. It was the big name shop where everybody went. You walk in Manny's, there's all these pictures on the wall signed by Jimi Hendrix and Who and everybody. All up and down the walls. And it was a special place, because you walk in there and you could feel the presence of all the famous people who had shopped there.
Yeah. And
just walking around 48th Street at that time, you'd see studio musicians and pit musicians from the Broadway shows, and you'd see the occasional celebrity. You know, so as a young guitar player with stars in their eyes, you're literally, you know, looking at these guitars through the glass and just dreaming about this. So it was what I'm saying. It was a special place.
Yeah, real special.
And but unfortunately, it's all gone now. There's no music stores left there, and the actual building that Manny's was in was torn down a few years ago.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was. If you look on my Instagram page, there's a picture there where Manny used to be, and I found a picture of what Manny's used to look like, and that's, if you swipe, you'll see that. But I took a walk over there. I was in town, and I took a walk over there, and there's a big hole in the ground. They were putting something up. So progress strikes again.
Yeah, man. You know, that's the number one, at least from the people I've interviewed, the number one thing that successful musicians have in common is parental support. Number one by far.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And then number two is like cooking. They like cooking. That's like that. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Rachel Bolan, our bass player, he's really good in the kitchen.
Really good.
He makes some incredible meals. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very common.
Me, not so much.
Not so much either. So what? So you get this Telecaster. What made you get a Telecaster? Was it just?
Oh yeah. So Manny's. My parents took me down to Manny's and bought me this Fender Telecaster. And at the time, I was hanging out with Rick a lot, his sister's boyfriend. And he was turning me on to a lot of stuff like, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young, and was coming from that kind of place. Jackson Browne, what else? And a lot of these guys were playing Telecasters, because it was like all around type of thing. I was even into like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and the Telecaster was like a consistent, and that's what I wanted to get.
Yeah.
And so I got this 78 Tele black pickguard, natural top, natural finish, and it was you know, it was like, wow. I would leave the case next to my bed open so I could see it first thing in the
That's
morning.
cool.
I'd wake up and it would be there. I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I still love Telecasters. So you seemed a little surprised by that.
Yeah,
I mean,
was.
There's always one. There's always
Yeah.
one nearby. You know, there's one here. There's one there. You know, there's always a telly around. I love them.
That's cool. Yeah, for their universal application, pretty much.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
They're you know they make you work for it.
Yeah, they sure do. Totally.
Yep, they definitely make you work for it. But they're very expressive.
That's cool.
Strats too. I love Strats and tellies. I like the old stuff. I like the heritage stuff. You know, Les Pauls. I got a 335 back there.
I see that. Yeah.
Really love, yeah. And so when I'm not doing Skid Row stuff, I'm usually playing that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Martin's, like if you look behind me, there's a Strat, there's a Telly, there's a 335. There's a couple of Floyd Rose guitars back there, my Yamahas that I use in Skid Row. There's a Martin over here. There's another Martin back there. So, you know, it's Martins, Fenders, and Gibsons mostly.
Very cool.
And the occasional Gretsch, they come and go.
I love the story when your high school teacher asked you what you wanted to do after high school.
Yeah.
And you said you wanted to be a rock star, and he kind of blew you off. And I resonated with that because like righteous indignation has really taken me far in certain situations when I'm good and fucking pissed off at something. I'm like, I'll show you, you know? And I'd love to hear that story and any comments on that.
Well, I was kind of blindsided by it. At the time I had been playing a while. I was probably in maybe 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. Mr. Bernstein, if you're out there, good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
There you go.
So yeah, it was like, you know, what do you want to do when you get out of here? What do you want to do when you continue after high school? And I said, I want to be a rock star. And he was like, no, that's not a realistic goal. So it was just like, boom, like, you know, the piano falls out of the sky and lands on your head. It's like,
yeah,
really? It's not. So, you know, I kind of was like, all right, I guess that's not a realistic goal, but I want to play. So my goal went from being a rock star to being a musician playing, you know, 5 nights a week at clubs and bars and making a living, paying rent and doing that because I just wanted to play. So from then on, it was kind of like, you know, I'm just gonna do this, and whatever happens, happens. But I had a drive that I had the drive that it requires to get somewhere.
Yeah.
In a very competitive and crooked, you know, fucked up business.
Totally.
So I had that drive, and that is, and I also had the I'll show you thing.
That is important, man.
Yeah.
That's like gas for the fire, man.
Yeah. And it wasn't just him. It wasn't just Mr. Bernstein. It was the bullies. It was the jocks. It was the shallow people that pushed you around until they realized that you were in a band, and that was cool. And then on your friend, I'm like, oh, really? This is how people are.
Yeah, it's sobering.
It's that learning process along the way. You're like, oh, there's people out there, and you know, they must be nice because I'm nice, you know, and it wasn't always that way. And then, you know, you start to learn about them. You become a little bitter and a little jagged, and all those little things in life that point you towards rock and roll.
Yeah.
Because although what we eventually did with Skid Row was popular, and everybody wanted to be involved in hard rock, heavy metal. When I started doing that with the other guys, we all did it because we were outcasts. It was very unpopular to especially if you liked Kiss. If you were a Kiss fan, you were you were totally outcast and ridiculed every single day.
Yeah.
So and so the hard rock heavy metal thing was not popular, and I think the non-jock, non-conformist kids were drawn towards that.
Yeah.
And I would, like I said, man, I was pissed off. I had other issues as well. So by the time, I was in the 10th grade, I was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. So I bailed on high school. I was so far behind. I wasn't learning anything. I didn't learn how to read until I was in the 7th grade. My parents sent me to a private school for half a semester. They put some money together, sent me to private school. I learned how to read. It was around the time I was starting to play guitar. My mom bought me some guitar magazines, and I started reading them. That's how I learned how to read.
That's a smart. Well, how smart was she?
Yeah.
That was
totally.
Really clever, man.
Totally. So, like I said, they threw gasoline on the fire, just like, go, dude, go do this, So that combined with the I'll show you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It worked out. But like I said, the goal was to play in a band and, not be a notable musician or anything like that. I just wanted to play and be as good as I could.
All right. Where did that, so there's a combination of pissed off, but there's a good work ethic under that. Where did that come from?
Just determination, wanting to do it. I mean, so much time spent in the car, driving places, either to see bands or to, go on auditions or concerts. When I left school at 16, I immediately jumped into the club scene and started watching bands. I had fake ID. The drinking age was 18 back then, and then they raised it to 19. But you imagine an 18-year-old, staying out all night drinking and driving around. They're unallowed to do it. I mean, they do it.
Yeah.
So,
did you get your fake ID downtown, like at one of those arcades?
I got it from my cousin. I don't know where it came from, but back then they didn't even have a picture on it. It was just like a piece of blue paper with it. People would like erase a number and just, some poor guy. This one place I used to go to a lot, it was up in Middletown, New York. It was called Rumors, and they got all the circuit bands through there. And the guy at the door, his name was Cliff. And Cliff, after a while, Cliff would just wave me through. And my cousin Gary and I would go up there and see the bands, and we would see all the tri-state area circuit bands. White Tiger, Phantom's Opera, Twisted Sister, of course. Yeah, they were a club band. People would line up in the afternoon. It was quite the sight to see. I remember seeing Metallica when they first came to the East Coast. They came through. There was 30 people in the place.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had never heard of them. My friend was like, "You got to check these guys." My friend was into really heavy music stuff I never heard of. So we went there. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. It took me a while to figure out what was going on there.
Yeah.
Never heard anything that fast or that heavy before.
Sure.
And I can't say I liked it at the time. I was like, it's not for me. I
felt the same way when I first heard it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it was really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Just way ahead of its time. And time caught up.
Yeah.
So, it's been a lot of times in those bars. I mean, a couple nights a week.
Yeah.
Working regular, house painting and warehouse work and stuff like that. And then spending the money at night to get into a bar and drink underage and stand in front of a guitar player and watch what he does.
And that was like your mentorship.
It was my music school.
Yeah.
Because these guys were pros. They were doing what I wanted to do. They were driving around the tri-state area every night, setting up their gear and playing. And there was one guitar player in particular who caught my eye, a guy named Mark Hitt. Mark?
Yeah, I had Mark on the show here. Yeah, I know he played.
Mark was on. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Oh, I gotta hear that.
Yeah, he played with what the hell? I can't.
Johnette Whistle.
But he
Whistle.
who is the tri-state band that he played with? Rat Race Choir. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Mark Hitt played with a band called Rat Race Choir.
Yeah.
They were kind of like a prog type of band. They did like Jethro Tull. They did a Zeppelin set. They used to do like UK and stuff like that. And Mark played a 335, and that's why. Well, he played a 345 or 55, whatever. It was the one like that with the block inlays. But that is the reason.
That's why you have
Mark Hitt is the reason why I have that. And
that's so funny.
That guitar is signed by Mark Hitt.
Is it really?
Had him sign it because he became my hero. He became my guitar hero. And
dude, I'll hook you guys up. All right, let me just write this down.
I got to know him over the years.
Cool.
So
good.
We have become friends. And back then I was scared to death to talk to him. I couldn't speak to any of these guys. I just like, to me, they were gods.
Yeah.
So I would stand in front of Mark Hitt, and they would come up every Wednesday and they would play. At this time, I was living in Middletown, New York, and they would come up and play every Wednesday, and I would be there, rain, shine, snow, whatever. And I would stand in front of him with my big trench coat, and I would just watch. And some nights I would just get so bummed out. I'd be like, nah, I'm never going to be that good, and I'm still not that good. But that's not the point. The point is that guy was such an influence on me.
That's so cool.
It was like, you know, if you go watch Eddie Van Halen and stand in front of him, study what he does. And that high watt was blowing in my face, just parting my hair. It was the best. And I got the best memory of watching him. And there's some old Rat Race Choir videos on YouTube from around 1981, which was the time I was going to see them. And they were a great band, just a great band. And they were, you know, they were like the musicians band. They were like bands. There were bands coming through and doing like the costumes and the lights and all that. Rat Race Choir would just get up there and throw it down.
Yeah.
Sometimes they had a keyboard player, but sometimes they would go 3-piece, which was my favorite because Mark would just go off. And eventually, many years later, when I met Mark, you know, this is after having some success and all that, and after meeting Mark, he's like, no, we remember you from back in those days with your trench coat. And
that's wild.
Watching. Yeah. And there were always guitar players just gawking at Mark because he was the guitar player's guitar player. But to know that they remembered me, whether they did or didn't, I like to think they did.
Yeah, that's just cool to hear that.
Yeah, it was really cool for me.
You ever see Riot playing that circuit?
Yeah, I did see Riot. Rhett Forrester was in Riot. Yeah, I saw them. I think it was Richards in Middletown. Yeah, there were all these little bars up there, Ace in the Hole and Richards and Gildersleeve's North, and I would hit all these spots. I mean, 16. 17.
Yeah, those are. It was funny because Middletown was like exit 20 off the throughway, I think.
Yeah.
And I know this because I used to collect tolls as a kid.
Really?
After in summertime, I got a job
down at
Yonkers.
Oh, way down Yonkers.
Yeah.
Oh, all
right. Where the throughway turns in, like, you know, where the Bronx goes into the throughway. And I'd always work like midnight shifts because they gave you more money.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm sitting and I'd always have music blasting. And this guy drives through one day and he goes, "Hey, that's me singing." And I'm like, "What?" And it was Ross the Boss.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I was like, "You're fucking kidding me, man. I can't believe it." I like, how random is that, you know?
That's nuts.
It was really funny, man. Yeah, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I would imagine the toll collectors, they probably see all kinds of people come through.
It is the worst job I've ever had because like it's always the same. Not like Monday at 2:00 in the afternoon is the same as Friday morning at 6 a.m. You know, so it was just good money for me. And being in high school, to you know, I would have done anything just to make money. I was just a hustler, you know. So I was like, great, I could do this and make more money than making minimum wage delivering packages in the city.
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine got a job as toll collector on Bear Mountain Bridge, and he was pulling in big bucks.
Well, relative,
yeah,
relative to minimum wage. Yeah. Right.
Relative to my dishwashing job.
Yeah. Minimum wage was like $2.90 an hour. I remember working for that. And I was like, so this is like $4 an hour probably. So it was like,
yeah, whoa. You know it.
Okay. Then when you're 20, you see an ad for a guitar player in a paper, but the audition's 150 miles away from where you're living. So, and it turns out Rachel Bolan answers the door, and the rest is history. You form a band called Godsend, which eventually breaks up. Then Rachel calls you a few months later to join his new band, which eventually became Skid Row. So I have a few questions on that. First is, you could have come up with 100 reasons not to go to that audition.
Yeah. And it almost didn't happen. Because he lost my phone number, and I didn't hear from I at the time I was answering lots of ads. I was like, I got to get out of this upstate thing and kind of get towards the city or New Jersey or Long Island or whatever. And so I was answering all these ads, and I was driving. I drove to the Bronx, and I drove to Yonkers, and did a bunch of auditions in Jersey, and there's a lot. As usual, you just got to sift through a lot of garbage before you find something good.
Yeah.
And I called this guy, and he was in Toms River, New Jersey, and at the time I was up in Middletown, New York, and we really hit it off over the phone. We got along great, and then I never heard from him again. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I didn't call him back. I guess he's not interested or whatever. And it was like 2 weeks later, and he calls me. He's like, dude, I lost your number, and my mom found it, and here I am.
My mom found it.
Yeah. She found it in the laundry. It's like going through his pockets.
How random, right? Like your fate hinged on a load of laundry.
I know.
That's crazy, man.
It's crazy. There's, little things like that throughout my whole life. If that number, or if that thing, or if that, if I didn't, lock the door in the car. So, he's like, yeah, I live in Toms River. And I was like, yeah, I think I kind of know where that's by Seaside, right? Yeah. He's like, yeah, it's right by Seaside. And he was like, yeah, I'll drive down there, tanks of gas. And, I got on look on the map. I'm like, what's the quickest way down there? I cut through I avoided the interstates, and I went the back route through Vernon Valley and all that. And I found my way down finally. And I knock on the doorbell, and boom, Rachel Bolan answers the door. And the first thing I said to him was, nice to meet you. I got to take a piss. Where's the bathroom?
Appropriate after a 150-mile drive.
Yeah. But, we got in the room and we jammed, and it was just really awesome. And I really liked the guys in the band, and Rachel and I hit it off really, really good, and we became really good friends. So I was like, I got to do this. And at the time I had a job up in New York, so I stayed there, and I drove down the weekends and spent the weekend down there rehearsing, or I drove out to gigs or whatever. And that went on for, a year or so. So that was a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from the East Coast and what the traffic is like in New Jersey on the weekends in the summer.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, you can't drive south on Friday, and you can't drive north on Sunday. And that's exactly what I was doing. And it was bumper to bumper, it was it was a 4-hour ride one way. So really just bumper to bumper, just, popping tapes in the cassette, just jamming out and fantasizing about, playing in front of an audience and playing out my future. And, eventually that band broke up. The band was called Godsend, and the band broke up, and I was still living in New York, and I was working at, side note, I was working at Steinberger Guitars. You remember them?
Yeah. With the low
little body.
Yeah. No headstock. Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool.
Where were they located?
They were, at the time, they were in Newburgh, New York. They started, I think
north
they started
of you even, isn't it?
Well, Newburgh was kind of, I think, northeast.
Okay.
Where was that? It was about a 40 minute commute. So that on top of, spend a lot of time in the car.
Yeah, man.
Stick shift Honda CRX and eating my lunch, big old sub, big old meatball sub, and steering with my knee and clutching and stick shift and the whole thing. So
Honda CRX, I remember those. It's funny.
Yeah, you put a Marshall cabinet in the back, put the head up front, and lay the guitar on top, and you're good to go. So but I worked for Ned Steinberger, and he was really, really awesome. Really awesome. What a great designer, engineer he is. And he's still making great stuff. A lot of his stuff is out there. But anyway, that was a cool job I had. So once that band broke up, I wound up, bandless again, working up there, answering ads, but Rachel and I became really good friends, and we spoke regularly. And he started playing with a guy from the local music store, Snake Sabo. They're putting a thing together. Snake's got a band. Rachel kind of teams up with him, and they start retooling the band. And they give it a name. They call it Skid Row. And Rachel's like, I don't think the guy we have in the band right now is going to be here much longer, so stand by, I'll get you an audition. And he did, and I got the audition, and I got the gig.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was and I was very excited about it. I really wanted to be in a band with Rachel again. I was an acquaintance with Snake. I knew him from the music store, Garden State Music, where I eventually got a job. He got me a job, and I was working there. So that meant, I'm going to kind of just move myself down to New Jersey. So I kind of set up shop on a couch in Rachel's parents' basement, and they were good to me. And
that's awesome, man.
They put me up. Yeah. So that was the beginning of Skid Row for me.
So let me ask you, you mentioned a few minutes ago, like your fate was, if you had used, if Rachel had written your number on a shittier piece of paper or a tissue instead of we wouldn't be having this conversation, or we might not be having this conversation. How do you look at things like that? Like when you look back over your life, if you even look or think about these things, do you look at it as like serendipity or the universe or some higher power stuff? If you even think about things like that, how do you frame that for yourself?
It's just like water going down a mountainside. Some of it goes over here, some of it goes over there. It finds its own way and just finds its way. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I don't like to think too much in the past, or spend time thinking about things like that. But
yeah,
it's just a natural path, the way things go,
Right.
It's like life and death. People don't wake up in the morning with the intention of getting hit by a bus,
right.
or they don't wake up in the morning with the intention of hitting the lottery.
Sure.
Things just happen. So yeah.
I like what you said. You said you don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past. Have you always been like that? That's really healthy.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't always been this healthy.
So all right. So if you're cool talking about it, how did you transition from like getting that chip off your shoulder to?
Oh, it's still there. The chip's still there.
No, but it's used for good now, I would imagine. Yeah. Right. Okay. So how did you had to make a conscious decision at some point to say, you know what? Some version of the conversation of I'm a bit of an asshole and I need to fix this for my best interest and everybody else is around me. And I need to not look at the past because it's irrelevant. If you're comfortable or to whatever.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
how did that come about?
I'm recovering alcoholic.
Awesome.
Addict. So I spent many years I would consider wasting time sitting in a bar, just drinking, you know, basically pouring alcohol into the holes of my life.
Sure.
You know, the answer to happiness is not success or money or any of that. There's so much more to it. It's really complicated. But people are like, oh, what's it got to be sad about or depressed about or whatever? It's got nothing to do with, you know, how much money you have or how many records you've sold. If you haven't sold any records, you believe that that is the answer.
Yeah.
But it's not the answer. So when you carry around baggage, you really you find a way. It's Novocaine. You know? The substances, the booze, it's all Novocaine. It's all to just make those things go away that haunt you, those haunting memories or traumas, you know, childhood trauma and things like that. So, and you get that swallows you up. Mm-hmm. You know, you're just in this complete cycle that develops over time. You know, what winds up fun eventually is not as much fun, and what feels good becomes a maintenance program. It doesn't feel good anymore, but it needs to be there. And you got to, you know, maintaining some sort of shield from whatever it is that haunts the particular subject. So I was just self-medicating, Novocaine, all that. So, and growing up and being very angry and pissed off about a lot of things, and that snowballs and compounds, and then it comes out just randomly, you know, it just bouts of anger. And so if I'm drunk and I'm really happy and I'm having a good time, that could change like that. And then the genie's out. Once the genie's out, look out, man. Things get crazy. Very unpleasant. A lot of shame. You know, a lot of days I woke up and feeling like, wow, I can't believe I did that last night. Or wake up feeling fine and somebody calls me and says, you know what you did last night?
Yeah.
Like, huh? I did that. And the shame is just, makes it even worse.
Right.
And then you dive deeper into that, you know, that pit. So at one point, when my wife was pregnant with our son, I was sitting, we were living in Florida at the time, and I was sitting there, you know, and I was drunk, and I had a bottle, and I had, you know, I had a big bong. I remember this moment. I had a big bong sitting next to me, and I had a cigarette in my hand, and my wife's in the house. She's pregnant. And I'm like, where do I begin?
Yeah.
How do I fix this? Where do I begin?
Which problem do I address?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't have enough hands for all this stuff. And now so first I quit smoking cigarettes, which is, I mean, I tried for years. If I had all the packs of cigarettes, I threw out the car window saying, fuck this, I'm not smoking anymore. Just pull over at the next rest area and buy another pack.
Right.
I mean, I would just chain smoke in the car, and then, you know, it gets sores in your mouth. And that was the first thing I gave up. And
which is tough, because usually when you get sober, it's a very common thing. I mean, you go to meetings, everybody's outside smoking.
Yeah.
So I give you credit, man. That you picked the toughest thing first.
It was really hard because I had to not drink for maybe a week in order to do that. And that was hard.
Yeah.
But I smoked tons of weed to kind of, you know, balance it out. And and I started running. So I think in order to stop doing something, you have to start doing something else. And in many cases, if you stop drinking alcohol, you start doing cocaine, you know, or something like that. So in this case, I said, I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes, but I'm going to start running 3 miles. So uh, that's what I did. And I got one of those apps on my phone to, you know, it starts you slow and it coaches you to a 5K, which is 3 miles. So I was doing that for a couple of years down in Florida, in that heat.
Yeah, in the fucking heat.
Yeah. So that was like 11 years ago, for the cigarettes. And the cigarettes are tough, man. They're a really tough thing to kick.
I used to smoke. I know that's it's very, because it's so relaxing. You wake up in the morning and you get a Marlboro with a coffee, and it's like,
and yeah. And when it's not there, you feel like your foot's gone.
Right. What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
It's like, what do I do after I eat? It's terrible. And it's so many failed attempts, but it finally stuck because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a dad. So I figured if I'm going to be a dad, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes. I'm just going to drink and smoke lots of weed.
Right.
But eventually that caught up with me too. And the alcohol just became that, the way the disease progresses is so slow and so gradual. Everybody's in on the joke but you.
Right.
And one day you wake up and say, how did I get here? Why is this?
I love that line. Everybody's in on the joke but you. That's
yeah,
man. It's pretty.
Think about it, right? This is one day you wake up, you're like, Jesus, this is terrible. So I got myself some help. I called a good friend. I said, I'm in trouble. I called a good friend that has been there and is in recovery. And I think he was just I think he knew the call was coming.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't surprised when I called. And he helped me find some help.
That's awesome, man.
And I got some treatment, and I got a really good therapist, helped me deal with, all the stuff that lives in there.
Yeah, sure.
That haunts you and just scratches. And that was just life-changing. I'm a different person now. I'm still kind of angry, but yeah, things bounce off of me. Yeah, whatever.
Man,
people got it much worse than I do.
Yeah.
So there's no pity party or anything like that. I'm just grateful that I made it through. And I still live with the shame of a lot of acting out I did.
Man, first of all, thank you, and congratulations on your sobriety. And I'm really happy for you. And thank you it was really kind of you to share that story. There you go, man. Have you ever checked? I'm sure this is familiar. Do you know this?
No, I don't know that.
I went through this program 2 years ago.
All right.
Changed my life.
I'll look at it.
Let me tell you, it's ACOA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. I've been to all kinds of self-development, self-help therapy. This book, I'm so grateful that a buddy of mine turned me on to it. It has just so, to the point where at Thanksgiving, when I have 3 kids and they all come over with their girlfriends, boyfriends, and my wife always puts out a thank you, like a journal, like what are you grateful for this Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, cool.
And I always fill it out last because whatever. And I read hers and it said, I'm so grateful Craig worked that program.
Nice.
That's great. Dude, I was like, but I'm just as great. Yeah, right. But I was so happy because, she's made me, she's inspired. She's the reason I wanted to be a better person. Like you said, I was getting ready to have a kid and it was like, something's got to trigger you or something's got to hit bottom or something, as you know. And she was always been my trigger and I didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
And I totally relate to you when you said something about, you put up the don't come in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point in time, that's healthy because that's a survival mechanism.
It's all survival mechanism. Yeah.
But nobody tells you, hey man, you're out of that situation. You can let the wall down now. You just still,
yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and you're still like, you know, fighting everybody. And it
it's
fucks
you,
you
and
up.
it's like talking about it. Just talking about it helps. You know, you talk about your wife. My wife is just she's the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that she stuck around.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It just, you know, when it really came to the end, it was very ugly, you know, so, but she stuck around through it. And, yeah, you have to talk about these things. You have to be open about them because somebody's watching this and you know who you are. Somebody's
absolutely, man.
Who this is resonating with, because I used to watch things like this or hear people talk. I was in and out of AA for many years, and you know, you hear somebody say these type of things, and inside of your head you're like, yeah, that could be me. That sounds like me. That's not but you know, everything's fine. I'm gonna go to the bar. You know, I had my seat at the bar. It had my initials in the. I carved my initial with a knife in the bar. It's like that's my spot. The paddy wagon. But yeah, it's. And talking about it, and you know, I had a great therapist.
Yeah,
you know, people like, oh, fuck you, wake up.
How do you not go to therapy? How do you get through life and be 50 something and not go to therapy? Seriously, I'm like,
I know.
I mean, maybe you know, if you had a charmed parenthood, you're born in third base. I don't know, man. I don't know. Even still, how do you get through life without seeing a therapist? Once
I started therapy. Probably preteen.
Yeah. I started when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, but parents brought me in. It's like, what's up with this kid? He's breaking shit. So, and I've been in and out like a good portion of my life. But it wasn't until I met this guy that it really all clicked for me. Everything fell into place, because there's just like anything. There are people who are technically qualified for the job who fucking suck.
Totally
horrible.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of those, a few good ones, but this guy, the ultimate, you know.
It's awesome.
He you know, he specializes in childhood trauma. He specializes in addiction, and he's had high profile clients. And you know, he's been in the music business. He's retired. Well, not retired, but he quit the music business. And he's be an A&R guy. So it's okay. I mean, it's all, he gets it. He gets gets all that stuff. So we're you know, guy who's got a practice who, you know, he just handles the local corporate people or a housewife or whatever. Cannot really relate to where I'm coming from. It has not been a practical or, you know, normal life by any means.
Sure.
Anywhere.
Yeah. I totally get that. Well, man, I'm so happy for you, man. Thank you for sharing that. It was really cool. And people are listening. I have had people email me, like, and it's really rewarding. And they say, you know, I was struggling and I listened to so-and-so. Because a lot of people talk about sobriety, and I wish everybody would talk about it, because the shit that's in these programs, this is what they should be teaching in school.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, learning, you know, the fucking European history from the 1600s is not going to help you. Learning how to deal with people and how to get fucking coping skills and how to communicate and deal with pain, that's going to make you a better person, man.
Yeah, man. Yep.
So thanks for bringing that up. It's really cool.
Really quickly. There's a movie, The Shawshank Redemption.
One of my favorites.
My favorite movie. It's my favorite movie by miles. It's just a metaphor for so many things. And just my little thing that I tell myself is get busy living.
Yeah.
Get busy living or get busy dying. Get busy living.
That's a great movie. I used to have a photo of it in my office years ago. I love that movie.
It's the best. I mean, I've seen it so many times. It's you know, you get it. And people are like, oh yeah, that movie, you know, and it's really gotten me through things.
Scotty, tell me the top 3 musical experiences you've had and what made them so fun or so memorable.
Oh man. I think recording Slave to the Grind, or Skid Row's second record, that was probably one of my top musical experiences. You know, we were coming off a lot of success from our first debut record, a long tour. It was, I believe, February, and we took everything and went to Fort Lauderdale. And we had some money in our pockets. People knew who we were. We had a producer we loved. We had a really cool studio, and the material was, we were really excited about the material, and it was just a great experience making that record. You know, we lived hard, we partied hard. We had a great time. So it was really cool. I mean, I have great memories of those sessions. February in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. What made you go to Fort Lauderdale to record? It's not like a mecca.
The weather.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. We had a little power to make some decisions. For our first record, they sent us to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Probably not so much fun as Fort Lauderdale.
that was the idea for them, for the powers that be. Let's send these guys someplace where they're pretty much nothing to do but
record. Yeah.
Yep. We rented some jet skis occasionally, but there was nothing to do out there. But actually, interesting enough, we did discover that there was a venue called Alpine Valley, which was a large amphitheater that was 25-minute drive from the studio. And that summer we were recording the first record. We saw Judas Priest. We saw, we saw a bunch of shows. We saw Def Leppard. All of a sudden I'm drawing a blank. But interesting enough, we were staying at a hotel that used to be a Playboy Club. And it was a large hotel with some golf courses. And that's all the bands stayed that played at Alpine Valley. So we got to meet everybody.
That's cool.
And everybody knew us as this band that just signed to Atlantic, that was making their first record. So most everybody was pretty cool to us. Specifically, Def Leppard, the guys from Def Leppard have always and still are some of the coolest and friendliest and just greatest guys ever. And they were even before we sold one record. Those guys were super cool to us. And it left a lasting impression. And I think, we have a reputation as being, a friendly band. We'll do what we can for fans, within reason. And that comes from meeting Def Leppard early and seeing how they treated us.
I had Phil on this show, Phil Collin.
Oh, he's great.
Such a regular dude, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just he grew up like in the Bronx of England. It was quite in some shitty part of London. And
he's one of those guys, like, do what Phil does, everything will be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Eat what Phil does, work out what Phil does, play the way Phil, do what Phil does, and everything will be fine.
That's so funny. I'm just gonna pull up your stuff on my iTunes here, because I want to ask you about the second record. In a Darkened Room is my favorite Skid Row record. Your solo in there is amazing. It's just a really pretty song. It's like the perfect heavy metal ballad.
It's a cool song.
It's emotional. It's everything is great. What do you remember about making that particular song or your solo in there?
I remember being in pre-production in Asbury Park, New Jersey, in it was like a storefront that we rented out and set up our gear. And Michael Wagner was there with us. It was winter time, and we were in pre-production, and we started working on that song. And we were trying to figure out how to open the song, how to start it. And I was like, why don't I play that melody? We'll start like that. So we'll count it in, and I'll start the song with the melody. And I remember doing it the very first time, and everybody just turned around and went, wow.
It's perfect,
That's cool.
man.
That's cool. And it was one of those moments like, wow, well, that really worked. So, so it kind of became, a spotlight song for me, because I get to play those nice guitar breaks, the reintro, and then a big long solo at the end. And once we were in the studio and it was time to cut the solo, I got to work on it, and it wasn't going well. I remember we were in Florida. We're in Fort Lauderdale, and I was cutting that solo, and it was going okay, and it wasn't worked out ahead of time. Some of my, like I Remember You, I kind of wrote that ahead of time, but this was just an improv. So it wasn't going well. I got really pissed off, stormed out of the studio, and Mike Wagner, he's like, let's do it another day. Eventually the solo moved to California. We were at a studio out here called Scream, over in the San Fernando Valley. And I took another shot at it. We were doing overdubs out here. We're doing background vocals and a couple guitar overdubs. So I took another shot at it, and we came up with that solo. And it was comped. It was like, we took like 3 of them and sewed them together. So, and it's a nice solo. Yeah,
it's beautiful, man.
That's, it sounds like me.
It's awesome. It's a really pretty solo. It's very moving. It's like, that's the one that gets the women like lined up for you. It's 10 deep. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I like doing it live. Sometimes I really find myself in that zone where you're not playing anymore. You're listening.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
That's my favorite place to be.
Yeah.
You just close your eyes and you're just there, because after a while, people that don't play don't understand that if you do it over and over enough, you don't have to think about it anymore. So, like when I play a Skid Row set, I'm not thinking about what the next chord is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm thinking about shit that's like, I haven't done my laundry in a week. But there's also that place where you're not playing anymore, you're listening.
Yeah.
You become, you're just listening to what's happening.
And that's a good place to be.
Coming through you. Yeah, it's really awesome. Yeah, I remember when that started happening.
When did that start? How long were you playing when that started?
That probably started happening in the last maybe 15 years. I started feeling different while I was playing.
Well, getting sober probably had an impact. That
it started happening while I was still pretty active.
Interesting.
At that time, I was smoking tons of weed, lots of weed, and I loved being stoned. So that's when that started happening, but it still happens now. So it wasn't like, it was just maybe something that manifested through that. I don't know. But I always believed I was a better player when I was high, and I do realize now that certainly was not true. Definitely not true.
I hear that a lot, that it's a big fear, like, holy shit, the first time I'm sober and I'm playing, and I understand that's got to be like intimidating.
Well, it's not, getting in front of an audience, that was something completely different. I'm just talking about the actual performance, the actual music that's coming out of you. I thought it was much more creative and better, which it was not. You just believe it is, because it's probably more fun,
right?
And feels more creative and creates more, of that cosmos in your head. But I'm definitely a better player without all that stuff.
Right.
And I quit alcohol before I quit weed. And so I wasn't playing drunk.
Right.
And playing drunk is just, it's just a mess. And I've done it so much, and there's so many videos out there, and it's shameful. But once I learned how to be clean, which is a whole nother thing,
right.
Being clean and learning how to be clean and how to have your life is just, as most people know, have been there, is really awkward and uncomfortable, and you go through this period. But you know, now I'm like, yeah, I'm as good as I want to be. I'm as good as I want to be within my personal limitations.
Sure.
You know, I will never be a Steve Vai caliber guitar player, or an Yngwie, or the kid on YouTube even, but I'll be as good as I can be, as good as I can be.
Dude, I would love to be as good as you can be. So please.
Listen, it's weird. It's always weird when you're the soul on board and you're looking out through the creature. It's like, what's the big deal? You know, I mean, probably Freddie Van Halen was like, it's just what I do, you know?
Yeah.
When I hear myself play guitar, it sounds like the first time you spoke into a tape recorder. I'm like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's not the most rewarding experience.
That's interesting, man. Okay, top 3 musical experiences: recording "Slave to the Grind." Again, just knee-jerk reaction. What would you say is number 2?
Well, it's not a musical experience, but playing on Saturday Night Live was one of the highlights of my career. It's like, you know, I was watching that when I was a kid. I can remember, you know, staying up till 11:30.
Yeah,
watching till the end. It's amazing. I mean, John Belushi was still on there. He's like all those original players were still on there, and and I always thought it would be awesome to be in that band. I mean,
in the SNL band.
Yeah, doing something like that was like kind of like a dream for me when I was a kid. You know, living in New York and going to Studio 8H and supporting all those great people that were coming through to play. But being on that show was a crazy experience, you know, because when you do it, you go up there all week for rehearsals. So it's an ongoing experience. It's not like you just go that night and play. You know, you go for the rehearsals and you meet everybody. I remember Kiefer Sutherland was the host when we played, and
oh, that's cool.
And you know, we got to mix with him and you know, Chris Rock and Adam Sandler and so awesome, man. And then the excitement of the day.
Well, you being a New York guy too, there's an extra mojo in that, man.
I mean, New York City is just, to me, it's the center of the universe.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Everything revolves around New York City.
Yeah.
And now to some extent for me, Tokyo, because my wife and we go there all the time, and I spend a lot of time in Tokyo, and it's got that same energy that New York has. And I live in Los Angeles, and you know, I like it. I really do like it here, but I don't live here because this is where show business is. I live here because it's easy to get to Japan.
Right.
So, pretty much. And, you know, and there's a Japanese grocery store around the corner.
Very cool.
But New York is the place to be. So being Saturday Night Live, which is New York, you know, is an incredible experience. And they do before they do the actual live, they do a dress rehearsal. So they do the whole show twice in the same day. And so you get to do it twice. And it was just really cool. And, you know, we've always been what I consider, you know, we shine in the live situation. So we're a live band.
How was the party? The after party had to be pretty.
It was great.
Cool, right?
It was great. It was I don't remember where it was, but it was some fancy restaurant. And there's always paparazzi outside and autograph seekers. You really feel like a star when you know, it's all the trimmings. They send limos for you, and there's people downstairs that when you stand outside that you know, that little marquee that says, you know, NBC Studios.
Sure.
Sign autographs, and you're like, wow, I'm the shit.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's good. It's a good experience.
And I think we had a good performance. I think we did well.
I'm going to go back and watch it.
It's hard to find. It gets
taken
down from you. Yeah, it gets taken down from YouTube all the time. People
wonder why.
People are always looking for it. I don't know. NBC is like,
right.
They're really tight with that stuff.
And what would be a third one?
I had the opportunity, very unique opportunity, to jam with Donald Duck Dunn.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
The bass player.
yeah, in a private situation, and a good friend of mine who's a singer, who was very good friends with Duck, called me up and said, "You want to come over for a jam with Duck?" I was like, "Yeah." You know, I had met
Wow.
him a few times, and we used to party a lot together, and because he lived in Florida also.
Okay.
And I went over to my friend's house, and I saw Duck, and we set up our gear, and we had another friend there playing drums, and we sat around for a couple hours just throwing it down, just playing blues jams and all this stuff. And you know, for those who may not know who Donald Duck Dunn was, he was part of the whole Memphis scene. I mean, he played with everybody from Elvis to right on up and he was a sideman for Eric Clapton, Neil Young. You would know him from Blues Brothers band.
Booker T.
He's a bass player for the Blues Brothers, and really an innovator for Booker T and the MG. Yeah. And so many recordings, and he was a legend. And you know, he's not with us anymore. He passed away some time back, but I really looked up to him, and he was a lot of fun to hang out with. And we would take a taste of alcohol together, and you know, and this jam was just, for me, it was like this experience. It was like, I cannot believe I'm doing this. And every once in a while, I'd play something, and he would go, "Woo!" like that. And I'd be like,
That's
"Wow,
cool, man. Duck Dunn. Yeah.
like, damn.
That's cool,
Let
man.
out a hoot. He let out a hoot. Be like, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Knowing him was really cool.
That's nice, man.
And I like the fact that my son Marshall got to meet him and all that. And yeah, it was really cool. So I would say, yeah. And those experiences are in no particular order, but you know, getting to jam with Duck Dunn in a private setting was just, you know, just a couple of guys hanging out playing
Very
music.
cool, man.
Yeah, it was really great.
Let's talk about gear for a few minutes.
Yeah.
What's your go-to guitar right now? Has that changed over the years? And maybe what would be your top 3 altogether?
Well, it depends on the situation, because, you know, it's split in two. I have the Skid Row type of guitars that I play, which are equipped with Floyd Rose and a humbucker, and you know, that they're set up for like a super Strat type of thing. And then there's like the guitars that I play for my own enjoyment or my own music at home. So I'll start with that. That would be the go-to guitar, would be my 56 Tele, which is sitting behind me back here. Is that the
one with the worn neck? Yeah, man. Can you pull that out? That looks like so properly worn. It's awesome. Wow. Okay. Oh man, how cool. It's worn all over, man. Like, so cool. Yeah. Your neck is so worn. It looks like it's not a rosewood fretboard, is it?
It's maple.
Maple, but it's so worn. It almost looks like rosewood. That's cool as shit, man.
It's a 56. It's been refretted, but aside from that, it's all original. It's got jumbo frets on it, and it really gives you something to hold on to. And
beautiful.
It's wonderful guitar. I love it. So if I had to grab one on my way out the door in a fire, it would be
that's it. Right on, man.
So that's always my go-to. But like I mentioned earlier, 335 sounds incredible.
What year is that?
It's about 2000, I think. I finally had I always wanted one because Mark Hitt played one, and I finally got it back then. It was we did a Snake Rage, and I did a side project called Ozone Monday, and that was my main guitar for Ozone Monday. And at the time I had different pickups in it, and I recently had there's a guy named Joel Wilkins. He wanted me JR Restoration. He wanted me these. I asked him for something specific for my 335, and he nailed it. They sound so good.
They're like PAF kind of.
Really, really great tone. So I've been using that on some of my stuff. My Les Paul R9. We got this my R9.
That's a beautiful guitar, man.
Yeah, it's got a nice top on it, doesn't it?
Really, really pretty.
It's got a big old fat neck, which I used to not like at all, but I really like it a lot now. And our buddy Keith Nelson from Buck Cherry, previously Buck Cherry, now producer and songwriter, gave me that humbucker right there. I had used his Les Paul one night when we were touring together. Actually, a couple nights he let me borrow it, and I really liked the sound of the pickup in it. I was like, this pickup really sounds, it's got a nice sizzle to it. And then, one day I was over at his place and I had this with me. He's like, well, I'm going to sell that guitar and let's just take the pickup out and put it in your's. So,
wow. What is that?
Yeah.
What kind of pickup is it?
We don't know.
Oh, is that there was a photo, I think posted recently with the two of you guys. Is that when you were both on stage together? I didn't know where that was. Yes,
that was all right. So, that's how my interest sparked again with Les Pauls. After my Telecaster, my 78 Telecaster, I started playing a little heavier music in some bands, and I got my first Les Paul, and I played that for years. That was my main guitar, and I was a Les Paul guy. And then eventually started playing, Floyd Roses and Super Strats. But I went out and did some shows with Buck Cherry when the other guitar player, Stevie D, his wife was expecting a baby, so he was on maternity leave. So I went out and filled in.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I went out and filled in for him, and then the band, the Skid Row and Buck Cherry had toured together before, so I knew everybody. And Keith was like, "I think Scotty should come out and fill in." So it was great fun, and I brought my Les Paul because you got to play something like that when you're playing the Buck Cherry, and that kind of re-established my relationship with this guitar, and I've been bringing Les Pauls on Skid Row dates for a couple of years now, as well as a Strat equipped with a Floyd and a Seymour Duncan JB, which is my combination.
That's your combination.
Yeah. Definitely JB is like my look at, I got one. I just happen to have one sitting on my desk right here.
That's so funny, man. It's just one of many. Yeah,
they're all over I got a box full of them up there. But that's my kind of benchmark pickup for a Strat style guitar. But this is like a very PAF-ish sounding pickup, but it's got a nice sizzle and a bite to it that I really.
You ever sell a guitar you wish you can get back?
All of them.
Oh, really?
All of them. Well, there's a 78 Telecaster out there somewhere I wish I had.
Yeah, that I figure, man.
And I think when I sold that, I wound up getting an Ibanez GB10, George Benson model.
Oh, okay. So you had a jazz box.
I did, and I wish I still had that. And that was like the second year that they came out. This was like 1980. Maybe 81 or something like that. And I wish I still had that, but there's a lot of them I wish I had. There's some I probably forgot about that I would wish I had. They've come and gone over the years. At one point I had over 50
guitars.
Yeah. And I was,
holy crap.
It's just storing them is like, what, where do I keep all these? And then I was like, well, I got all these guitars that I don't play, and there are these guitars that I want.
Right.
So I took a good portion of those and I sold them, and I bought a few vintage guitars, including that 56 Tele. Yeah.
You could tell you like that a lot, man. Like when you picked it up, I just felt your vibe was like, you could just see that's a special guitar.
I played a few of them, and that one called out to me by far. Yeah. And it's interesting. I wound up becoming friends with a guy that used to own it. This guy, Ford Thurston, guitar player.
Oh yeah. From Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. He's a great guitar player. He's Jeff Beck is probably my biggest influence. Mm-hmm. And Ford is probably the closest thing you're going to get to Jeff Beck.
No, really?
In a modern guitar player. Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that says a lot.
So he's got some mojo on that guitar.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
What's the last thing you listened to musically? What were you listening to recently?
The Bee Gees.
Really?
Yep.
What made you listen to the Bee Gees? They came up in rotation, or you actually?
No. I put them on. I don't remember why it was. I think I had one of the songs in my head, but I also recently watched the documentary. I think it was on HBO Max, which was great.
Yeah, I saw like half of that. It was pretty
The
good.
Bee Gees documentary was great, especially when they go through that whole disco sucks period.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's more extreme, but that's kind of what we went through when the grunge thing came along. And it was like, I mean, in a matter of a few months, we went from being a very popular band to being like a really hated band. Like, not just us, but anybody in the genre. Yeah. So it was quite a shock to many people, but what the Bee Gees went through was way worse. I mean, you know, people were filling baseball stadiums to burn their records, and you know, I mean, that's part of that disco sucks thing too, man. You know, because I was a little rock and roller, but the Bee Gees were great. They were great songwriters, great singers. You know, really, really great stuff. And there's no denying, even back then, that, you know, like the stuff they did for Saturday Night Fever, just fantastic music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really makes, you know, it's no wonder why people were dancing like crazy. Yeah. So so something, I must have had one of the songs in my head, and I went to my Bee Gees playlist. Yeah. But you know. Mm-hmm.
So what did you guys do when that happened? Because I've had you know, Steve Hunter from Alice Cooper's band. Right. I had Steve on here, and he was saying the same thing happened when you guys came in. Because he said, like, I was killing it, and I'm playing in the studio with Aerosmith, and like, I think it was 1970, January 1st, or 1980, January 1st, the phone stopped ringing, and it didn't ring for 10 years. I mean, literally. And this is a guy who was, you know, on top of the world.
Most of these bands were influenced by Alice Cooper band, you know?
Yeah. What did you guys, how did you like weather the storm? Like, how did you even react to it? Like,
we all went down into a fallout shelter and shut the door.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
well, at that point, there was a lot of tension in Skid Row. It's well documented that, you know, the Sebastian and the rest of the band did not get along. So the popularity was gone. It wasn't raining money. So we're like, let's just all go home for a while.
Okay.
And we did. And when we got back together, we did it with a different lineup. But for a few years, it was, you know, I just stayed home. You know, I had enough money to sustain life for a little while. You know, I'm not rich, but at the time, you know, I didn't want to go out and do anything. I mean, we had toured really, really hard.
Yeah.
We were tired. You know, our first tour was 22 months long. No, 16 months long. Our second tour was 22 months long.
That's insane, man. I cannot imagine the drain on you physically and mentally.
You come home, you come home on Christmas Eve, you leave a few days later, and then, you know, that's it basically. You're on a bus or a plane or in some sort of transit. So when that all happened and the popularity went away, I just didn't do anything. I partied, I hung out with my friends and stuff, but I pretty much did it all from home. If I went out and somebody asked me what band I was in, I wouldn't tell them.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't tell them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was, you know, nobody wanted to hear it.
So you just totally withdrew.
Yeah.
You
know, and it's funny because, you know, all the people that hated you were the same people that had fringed leather jackets in the back of their closet.
Right.
You know, they just moved on to the flannel shirt. You know, same person, different shirt, different costume.
Crazy.
People are shallow.
Yeah. Well, you see that more now today than ever.
Yeah. But, you know, I got to say that I wasn't all that surprised that what we did became unpopular. And something that was completely opposite came along to replace it, because it became really watered down and really, really sugary and poppy and just kind of gross. You know, personally, I wasn't into a lot of the stuff that was going on. You know, you know, our music got heavier as we went on.
Yeah.
Other bands got softer and cheesier.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't put girls in our videos. We didn't put, you know, hot babes in our videos. There was never any chicks in our videos. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to be a hard rock band, you know, and that stuff was all fun. You know, I mean, I was fans of a lot of those bands, but after a while it became real cheesy, and it's no wonder why the bottom dropped out.
Yeah.
You know,
I totally get that.
So, you know, grunge came along and really just wiped the slate clean, and it probably needed it.
Yeah. I want to talk about, you got a nice love story there.
Oh, my wife.
Yeah, man. Talk about that. That's cool.
My wife is from Japan, and in 1989 she was on spring break, and her and her girlfriend were traveling around the country in America, you know, going to rock concerts. They were rock fans, you know. The Japanese, when they're fans of something, man, they're loyal to it. So they were seeing all kinds of concerts, and we met at a show in Ames, Iowa. I met my future wife from Japan in Ames, Iowa.
Oh my God! How did she like? What prompted her to say, "Let's go to Ames"? It's a cool place.
Her and her girlfriend were supposed to see a show in New York. We were on tour with Bon Jovi, and they wanted to see us, and of course Bon Jovi, but we had just hit, and everybody wanted to see Skid Row. So the show in New York was canceled, so they hopped on a Greyhound and went to the next show, which happened to be in Ames, Iowa.
Wow! And
they were looking for the box office, and they asked this man who happened to be our bus driver where the box office was. They didn't speak English, so they're just, he's like, "Oh, Japanese girls here, come on the bus, you know."
Holy crap.
Here, have some water. And I wake up and I walk out into the lounge area, and there's these two girls sitting there. They don't speak any English. They're smiling. I'm smiling back, wiping the sleep out of my eyes. So, you know, it's a novelty. It's like, wow, these people are from Japan.
Right.
Just put them on the guest list. So we put them on the guest list. Don't worry about the box office. Just go there and give them your name. And
oh, that was so nice of you guys.
Yeah.
Man.
So we did the show.
Really
they
cool.
Came backstage, and that was that. You know, it was a fun time. It was a fun time for them. It was a fun time for us. And every night was a party in our dressing room. So it was some months later, we did our first tour of Japan, and I ran into her on the street in Japan, you know.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, we were near the hotel. Well, it wasn't by coincidence, you know, like fans would hang out near the hotel, or you know, Japanese fans, they have a network.
Yeah, but it's not like there's fucking how many people in Tokyo? I mean, there's
Tokyo's big.
20 million. I mean, there's 8 million in New York. There's got to be like 15 million.
There's a bunch. So
wow.
It's like, wow, there's Masai. Hey, what? And she's like, hi. I was like, come to the show. So anyway, friendship develops, you know, nothing romantic or anything like that. Just a nice friendship. It's nice. It's my nice friend from Japan. And over the years, she saw lots of shows, and she would get in touch through the new email.
Right.
And she would be a guest at shows, and then she disappeared for a while. It was about 5 years later, I ran into her in Los Angeles, and she spoke English. I was like, wow.
Wait, hey, so you randomly ran into her, or she contacted you?
She came to a show.
Okay.
Somebody came up on the bus and said, "There's a girl outside, says she knows you. Her name's Masai. She's a Japanese girl." It's like, oh my God. Wow. So cool.
How?
Bring her up. And at the time, she had moved to LA and was working here. She started a career as an esthetician. And so we had our first real conversation. And
because she spoke English now.
Yeah, and you know, still a little broken English, but I realized that she was very funny, which I suspected in the first place, that she had a really good sense of humor, and she was beautiful. And I had a girlfriend at the time; so she was my friend. So anyway, many years later, after, you know, this continued, come to shows, and I wound up in another marriage, and I eventually got divorced, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to see what's up, see if she's around. So I did.
That is so crazy, man.
She was available.
And then you started dating, and the rest is
We
history.
started dating. She always had a crush on me, you know, and I was like, I am not going to bring a nice girl into this fucked up world that I'm running around in.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I did eventually, and
that's so cool, man.
And she put up with tons of bullshit from me, and she's the best.
That's awesome.
And she's funny, and she's a great mom, and yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you, man.
Yep.
That's a very cool story. How nutty is that? That this like.
I always tell people, I say I would do anything for my wife. She told me to go rob a bank, I'd go rob a bank.
Yeah,
she's the best.
Good for you, man. I hope you guys have many, many years of that, man. That's very
Thanks,
nice.
man. Thanks. Yeah.
Tell me what one thing, Scotty, are you most grateful or proudest of doing or not doing?
Well, I'm proud. I never gave up because Skid Row got a lot of success very quickly. We were doing big tours. We were out there. We were making money. We were selling records. Everything stopped when when the grunge thing came along. When we decided to get the band back together, and we decided to have a new lineup and a new singer, we started over again. So when I say I was playing on corner stages and sleeping in vans and really, really, really nasty hotels, that was after.
That was round two.
That was round two. That was after
we
had multiple tour buses and flying first class and staying at the really nice hotels. I mean, we were staying at hotels. I would spray everything down with Lysol. I would take the cover off the bed and throw a sleeping bag on there, and I would climb into sleep. It was nasty. And that went on. That wasn't just a short stint. That went on for years. And gradually, I remember when we started staying at Red Roof Inns, it was like, wow, this is really a step up, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. We had our Red Roof Inn cards and all this. And this was after we sold millions and millions of records. So I don't think a lot of people would have put themselves through that, or their egos wouldn't allow them to put themselves through that.
I would agree with that.
But we wanted to play. So, and some of those gigs were they were embarrassing. You know, they're just, like barely any PA, no lights, really no stage, just playing in the corner of like a bar room.
What kept you going, man?
That's what we do. That's what kept us going, because this is what you do. You know, you go to the gig and you play. The gig may be, the Coliseum, or it may be the bar down the road, or it may be a theater, or, and eventually the gigs picked up a little bit and they became nicer, and we started making a little more money, and we'd jump on a tour with a couple other bands, and we would do that, and the word would get out. And then we started doing, around 2005, we started doing fly dates. I remember somebody saying, hey, there's this thing called fly dates. We get on a plane and go.
Yeah.
And I was living in Florida at the time. And for some years, every Friday morning, I would, like early, like Thursday night, I would get on the first flight out of Sarasota and connect in Atlanta. And from there, it was all over the place on the weekend. We go out and do 2 gigs.
Yeah.
For example, we'd fly to Minneapolis and then drive somewhere in Minnesota, play a gig, drive back to the airport in the middle of the night, fly to Indianapolis, do a gig there, back to the airport in the middle of the night, back to Atlanta, have my breakfast, fly home, go to bed.
Wow. How long did that go on for?
It's still how we do it.
That's still how you do it in fly dates.
I just do it from LA. You know, fly dates are cool because I have two lives. I go out and I go on stage and I stand under a spotlight and play through big amps and make lots of noise and people cheer. And then Monday morning, I walk my son to school.
Yeah.
And say good morning to the other parents. And they say, how was your weekend? I think to myself, you wouldn't understand.
That's like a little joke with that you get to have.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It wasn't
man.
your average weekend. And it's cool. And it's gotten to the point where, you know, we make a good living like this. I mean, we do bus tours still. Occasionally we'll jump on with a band, or when we go to Europe regularly, we do bus tours all through Europe. We're much more popular in Europe than we are in the States. We do we do a lot of festivals over there. We get good slots on all the festivals, and we do some festivals here too. But Europe has always been,
why is that? That's so common.
I don't know exactly why it is, but they're a little less hung up on what's happening.
That's what I hear. Like,
and
they're
more
not concerned
hung up on what they like, you know?
Yeah. Like, what have you done for me lately is not an issue, but
right.
What you have done is respected.
It's crazy because, you'll show up to a festival in Germany somewhere, some festival you never heard of, and you walk out and there's 10,000 people just like freaking out. And there's a lot of those. And then there's the bigger ones that are just, like download. We do download, we do walk-in, we do Hellfest, Sweden Rock. We do quite regularly. Sweden Rock they're all amazing.
That's awesome.
So much fun. Yeah. And people really have fun. They just, nobody's hung up on anything, and they're just there to camp out and rock, have a good time.
That's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well deserved. I give you a lot of credit for that, man. Totally.
Thanks, man.
To start second time around. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people's egos would have allowed them to do
when
that.
I think back to it now, I don't know how we did it. I mean, I can remember, sleeping in that van, and just at one point, we got out of the van, we got into an RV and was like, yes, we can stretch out a little bit.
It's all relative, man.
In that RV. And one day we're down in Florida. It's like somewhere up in the Panhandle, and we're bouncing around. We're on our way to a gig, and somebody says, "You smell smoke?"
Oh no.
Next thing you know, we're like, holy shit, the RV's on fire.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the RV caught on fire, and it was burning on the side of the highway, and the traffic stopped, and people were running with fire extinguishers. And then we realized that our briefcase full of all of our cash was in the RV. Snake ran into a burning RV.
Oh my God.
With the money.
Thank God.
Yep. And the fire department came and put it away, and the tow truck came and took it away. And it just so happened that a friend of ours was following us in his car, and we all stuffed into his car and had our gear brought to some hotel or something. And we rented a van and got ourselves to the next gig and carried on in a minivan from that point.
Holy smokes.
So between a car and a minivan, we were moving our gear around. It was really something else.
What was the most challenging aspect of being in the limelight? Because you guys were, like, everybody wanted a piece of you, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that happened really fast. So it was strange. Because I would always have that Joe Walsh line going through my head. Everybody's different, but I haven't changed. Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's interesting.
People look at you differently, and they talk to you differently, and they treat you differently. But if there's any downside to it, it's that you can't turn it off. It's always there. So when you're buying toilet paper and somebody comes up in the supermarket and they're freaking out and they're making a big scene and everybody else is looking like, what's going on? Who's that guy? Or if you're having a bad day, or, you can't turn that off when somebody dies. You're in mourning, and somebody's really excited to see you, and they're making a big scene and wanting to take pictures. you can't turn
Yeah,
it
that's a
off.
drag.
But you know, you're grateful for it at the same time, but you're not always in a good mood. But I do very, very best I can. And it doesn't really happen anymore. But for a few years there, it was, you know, you couldn't go to the mall without getting,
I'm sure.
you know, and people talk and they whisper, and then everybody knows you're there. So, but, you know, I've always been try to be cool to people, you know. And we always try and stop and say hello outside the gigs. And, you know, going back to Def Leppard, those guys were so nice to us when we were nobody that, you know, it left a long lasting impression. So we try and be as cool as we can. Because I've met people that I look up to who are not cool and who kind of may have been a dick.
Oh, really?
I never want somebody to feel like that after they've met, you know, me. So maybe in my past life, maybe I made a few mistakes along the way and snapped at people, but we're human.
Yeah, man. You're forgiven.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Speaking of which, tough question. What do you like most about yourself? Timing of that was good.
I'm a pretty self-loathing guy. I got nice hands. I don't know.
No, come on.
I don't know. I guess I guess sense of humor. You know, I try and be a good dad. I try and do the right thing. I don't always, but I try and do the right thing.
What would your wife say she likes most about you?
I don't know. She always tells me I'm cute. So I guess she thinks I'm cute. I don't know. She thinks I'm cute.
It sounds like, what do you call it? What was that magazine when we were kids? Like, you know, it would have like the flower, you know, it was like the Archie sort of font. You know, the teen magazines. Scotti Hill's cute. It sounds like
Were you talking about Metal Edge?
No, those magazines like
no, I know
that we were a kid. Metal Edge. That's funny. No, but Blabbermouth may put this on here because they're always like,
yeah,
they'll say all that stuff. Yeah, they pick up a lot of stuff from your genre. You know,
if there's one thing, there's one rule in life. If you wind up on Blabbermouth, don't read the comments. That's it? Everybody knows that. Everybody who's been in Blabbermouth knows not to read the comments.
Most important thing your dad taught you?
I think my dad taught me like compassion. He's like, you know, the closest thing to like a Buddhist monk from Brooklyn. You know, he was always shouting and barking when we were kids, but he's also the guy that's gonna catch the moth and go out of his way to set it free. You know, he's just doing his job. My dad would say he's just doing his job, you know. So I think a lot of that rubbed off on me.
That's cool. How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Don't be afraid to take chances.
That's cool.
You know, I think calculated risk is probably something I learned from her. Take a chance once in a while. And, you know, I probably came to this point at some point in my teens where I was like, you know, should I really pursue music? Because once you go that way, you can't go back. Which, you know, you can, of course, people start new careers in middle age and things like that. But, I think she told me, you know, take a chance, give it a try.
That's very cool. Was she a creative person? Was she into music?
They're both creative. My dad's a photographer. My mom's a writer. They're much older, but yeah, they're still here. And there's a lot of creativity around the house, a lot of goofing around. And my mom she's tough. She's a tough newspaper lady. So you don't fuck with her.
That's good, man.
But, yep.
Strong women are awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
You have any hobbies outside of music?
I like to ride my bicycle. You know, I go on long bike rides. You know, not like, you know, not like super cyclist guy, but you know, I'll go out and ride, you know, 30, maybe 40 miles.
Dude, that's a fucking healthy bike ride, man.
Sometimes 50 miles. I like to ride. I got a gravel bike, which is kind of a cross between a road bike and a mountain bike, and I ride in the Santa Monica Mountains. I ride on the fire roads up there.
That's great.
Keith got me into biking. Keith Nelson.
Yeah.
He because I've always been a bicycle guy, but when I moved to LA, I didn't have a bicycle, and I went for a ride with him one day and realized how out of shape I was. So
yeah, that'll do it, man.
I needed to get a bike. So I enjoy riding my bike. And any other hobbies? No, not really. You know, my hobby is playing guitar, and I like playing bass too.
I saw that bass there. I was going to ask you about that earlier. I forgot.
My Yamaha BB. I like to switch my brain over to bass player mode. A lot of guys just sit there with a pick and follow the chords, but you know, man, I listen to guys like Dunn, man. You gotta find a pocket.
Yeah, right on.
Play a bass line. Paul McCartney, you know.
Did you play bass on your solo stuff?
Yeah, I played everything. I played everything except for one song. Paul Taylor played keyboards.
Yeah, I know Paul from Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on the show a long time ago.
Yeah. He played. I needed some funky Fender Rhodes, so he gave me that, and as a bonus, he threw some nice B3 on there. So
that's cool. Yeah, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays guitar.
He was a wicked guitar player.
Yeah,
Jesus. Yeah. Yep.
Tell me the favorite place you've traveled. Probably must be Japan, I guess, right?
Yeah, I love Japan.
Yeah.
I love Japan. I spend a lot of time there. You know, sometimes we'll go there for months at a time, and just, you know, if I have downtime and my son is not in school, we'll go to Japan and spend.
That's awesome.
So a few times I've been there for, you know, 2 months or so, and I'll just get lost in that whole thing, and I'll go for long walks and hop on the train and go somewhere. And, you know,
are you bilingual? Can you speak Japanese?
Very little. I speak enough Japanese to impress a person that doesn't speak Japanese. But
that's funny.
To put it just seriously, I don't speak Japanese.
Is your son bilingual?
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's fluent in Japanese. He can.
That's really cool.
Yeah. He does his math homework in Japanese. You know, the questions. You know, if Tommy had this much money.
Oh, and he thinks it through in Japanese.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
He knows the kanji and the hiragana, katakana. Yeah.
Very cool.
Pretty proud dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tears it up. I mean, they speak Japanese to each other. My wife and my son, they speak Japanese to each other. So
right.
They have a secret language.
They're plotting. Well, I think moms and kids need secret languages anyway, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me just a few more questions, and thank you very much for everything, man. You're really sweet to talk to, man, and I appreciate you keeping everything so real. It was very kind.
Thanks.
Best advice you've ever been given? Take
a chance.
Yeah, good for you.
Don't be afraid to take a chance. I mean, really, it was great advice, because, you know, our fears will hold us back, and still, you know, to this day, maybe my music hasn't been released out of fear somehow, or, you know, I mean, of course, I really don't know how to go about it, because I'm just a guitar player sitting in a room out here in Los Angeles, but you know, take a chance on some things.
Biggest change in your personality, Scotty, over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional and how much has been a natural part of aging?
Well, mostly intentional, but the aging process. I mean, I've let shit bounce off of me much more, you know, the stuff that used to bother me. I realized that we spend our lives worrying about things that are probably going to happen anyway. And once they do, it's like no big deal. It's just like anything else. There's good shit and bad shit. And, you know, it comes along. Cause I used to sit around and worry. I'd worry about, what if my career does this, or what if this happens, or what, aside from, you know, catastrophe or death or anything like that, most of the stuff I've worried about in my life has happened, and it came and went.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time worrying about that stuff.
So don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Very cool, man. Just two questions. Most important lesson you've learned in life? And maybe that was it. Don't smell the small
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe, you know, I mean, I think maybe I learned lessons and don't really, you know, probably apply them, but don't really, you know, note them.
Gotcha. And that's it. Any final words of wisdom?
No, it's been great talking to you. You know,
Likewise, man.
I like coming clean on stuff. You know.
Yeah. You want me to send you a bill for the therapy?
That's right. That's right.
Will you feel better?
I gave all my money to the other guy. It's like, wow, this is expensive. I hope it's worth it. You know, rock and roll does not come with a health plan, you know?
No, I know, man.
Yeah.
Lan, first of all, thank you again. Really appreciate it's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
You're
you, brother.
A fucking awesome guy. Thank you for keeping everything so real. Very kind of you to share. I want to tell people what you got going on. There's a new Skid Row record coming out or in the works.
Yeah.
Any idea when that's coming out?
Well, we're working with Nick Raskulenix in Nashville. He's producing it, and I don't have a release date, but it will be out. I'm going to say early next year,
2022.
Yeah, because we're doing it in steps along the way. He's got a lot of projects going on. He's a very in-demand producer who really wants to work with us. He's been a fan for years, and you know we're consider ourselves very lucky that he's carving out the time to you know work with us. He's fantastic. We've gone through pre-production with him, and it's like having another cool member of the band.
That's awesome.
In the room. I mean, because we're a band that gets along really well with each other. We're all friends. We hang out, and
that's great.
And he fits into that perfectly. So I'll be going in with Snake in a few weeks to cut all the guitars. So
that's great, man.
Looking forward to that. And you know, we're going to do something interesting this time. Snake and I are going to get in a room together and cut our parts at once together rather than
separate.
He shows up on Thursday and I show up on Friday.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so people, sorry,
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Will you be touring that? I'm assuming everything's cool pandemic wise.
We have shows beginning in July. So we will finally continue our fly dates. So immediately following that session, we'll go out and do our first show in Reno. I think it's like July 8th or something like that. And we have we'll continue our fly dates in the States, and they're coming in slowly. You know, people, we're all still cautious about it, and anything is subject to change at this point. But once we're all in the clear, it'll be back to a normal touring schedule. So, which includes a very busy summer, and then tours of Europe and wherever else. I mean, we're going to Australia in December.
Oh, that's wonderful, man. That's really good to hear.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
When is your Florida trips, man?
You know, I was in Florida last week.
I know. We didn't know each other then.
Yeah, I was down. I finally got out of here to visit my folks because I hadn't seen them in over a year. You know, they're older, and you know, you want to see each other's faces.
Sure, man.
Yeah, I got down there to do that, and
you came as weather was perfect too, man.
It was really nice.
We've had a beautiful spring. We haven't had this cool in ages, man.
Yeah, it was just ideal because it was still kind of humid. It was very dry out here.
Yeah.
So it was nice to smell that tropical, lush Florida air that wasn't like, you know, swill.
Yeah.
Totally which it is in like July and August.
It's even like that now. We've just been lucky, man. Very lucky.
People don't get it. They're like, "Is it hot in Florida?" I'm like, "Man, you break a sweat walking the mailbox.
Yeah, totally.
Come back covered."
Yeah, absolutely. So look for the new Skid Row record. Go to skidrow.com and all the socials that are attached to that. As far as Scotty goes, follow him on Instagram. It's Scotti Hill, Scotti. Follow him on Instagram. Also, if you are interested in working with Scotty, and he does a lot of session work and plays in a lot of tracks, send him a direct message on Instagram. Obviously, like, send him a link to the music, and you know, give him some intel. You know, why do you think he's a fit for you? What are you looking for? So he could make an intelligent decision and get back to you on it, and you know, address you seriously. Also, on a limited basis, Scotty does work with some guitar players. More specifically, if you're looking for to maybe find out how he does some of the things he does on guitar, or what are his influences in this, and you want some help getting over something specific that's up his alley, same thing. Just send him a note, give him some details so he can get back to you. And the best way to connect with him, again, is to direct message him on Instagram at Scotti Hill. Anything else, man? Can I sell anything else for you, Scotty?
I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy. I'm happy to play guitar. I'm grateful to be in a band that I love, and I'm grateful that people listen.
Yeah, man, we listen intently because you're an awesome player, and you guys are an awesome band. Thank you very much for everything, man. I really appreciate it. I
Craig,
hope
thank you.
Down here. Hang on one sec. Let me wrap this up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. Thanks very much to Scotti Hill for being such a cool guy. Go back and listen to this, man. There's a lot of good messages and inspirational stuff on here. Again, pay attention to Skid Row. Go to skidrow.com and follow them on the socials for the new Skid Row record, probably coming out in early 2022. And Scotti Hill's debut solo EP will be coming out. Hopefully we'll come back on here. Let's come up with a name, like before we hang up. Let's get a name and just get this shit out. Get a release date.
A name for the EP?
Do you have her name?
I do have a name.
What is? Can you announce it?
Black Oasis.
Black Oasis. Perfect. Great name.
That's the working title.
Great. That's a great name. Yeah, stay tuned for Black Oasis. I'm glad we got a title. And again, if you want to work with Scotty on having playing some tracks, direct message him on Instagram. And the same thing if you're looking for some input on guitar stuff. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice.
Get busy living.
Get busy living. That's right. Be nice. Go play a guitar and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Scotty, thank you so much for everything, brother.
Thank you.